The basic message of the book of Ephesians, which we're studying this term, is reconciliation and forgiveness. And it has a two-part dimension. First of all, there is reconciliation between God and humans, but that reconciliation leads to a horizontal reconciliation between humans. And today I want to talk a little bit about that, particularly about God's mercy on how that spills over into our relationships and brings reconciliation. So indulge me, please, in a testimony, not just individual testimony, but family testimony, if you will. Our lives, the life of my family and myself became fragmented when I was rather young, about 11 years old, when my parents divorced. My older siblings and my mother left to the United States to try to make a better life. And I remained back in my native country of Dominican Republic with my father. So there was a tremendous fragmentation there because we were so separate. A couple of years later, I moved to the United States to join my siblings and my mother. And that fragmentation continued because even though we were together, we really had separate lives. My mother was working many, many hours to support a family as a single mother. My brother, as soon as he turned 18, moved out of the house. And my sister and I, we just were in different places in life. So we were really fragmented. And we didn't know God. We had heard about God before, but the gospel had not been preached to us. But then something happened. My sister had some friends who were evangelical Christians, and they invited her to their church. She went, she was interested, but nothing much came of it until the same friends reached out to my mother and said, would you come to our church and see what you think? And my mother, the very first Sunday that she went there, she heard the gospel preached, and that changed her life. And then my sister became a Christian, and her life was changed. And then they wanted me to come to church. Now, I didn't want to come to church because in the interim, I had joined the gang. But out of respect for my mother, I started going to church on Sundays as well. I would sit in the back pew, looking at the clock, ready to go home. But something happened that I was not intending for. And that is that as the gospel was preached, the love of God through his gospel began to get a hold of me. And it became stronger and stronger to the point where I felt like I could only surrender. So I surrendered my life to Christ. But then there was my brother. My brother, when he moved out of the house when he was 18, became a drug dealer. And he lived a dangerous, luxurious life. And certainly he didn't want anything to do with God. He became rich, very wealthy, but no God in his life. And so my mother also invited him to come to church. And he decided to come one Sunday. And just like me, hearing the gospel and hearing the love of God really got a hold of him. And this man, in the midst of money and a luxurious lifestyle, also gave his life to Christ. And he repented. He gave that up. And it was really hard for him because now it meant that he was going to have a 9-to-5 job and he was going to struggle financially like the rest of us. But God really changed him, and he changed our entire family. Because of God's mercy, we were reconciled to God, and then we were reconciled to each other. And I'll leave the last word to a conversation I had with my mother a number of years ago. When we lived in the Dominican Republic and my parents were married, we were kind of wealthy for that part of the world. My mom had someone who cleaned the house for her, who bought the groceries, who took care of the children. She had a great lifestyle. When she moved to the United States, now she wasn't the one receiving the house cleaning. She was the one now that, in order to make a living, had to clean toilets and clean homes. So that was really hard for her. But I remember asking her about a couple of years ago, how does she feel about that now? And I'll never forget what she said. She told me, I'd rather be cleaning homes and know Jesus Christ than have all the money and all the servants and not know Jesus Christ. And that's what the Lord has done with us. That great mercy of His has reconciled us to himself, and has brought our family together.